Hello to my air signs Libra, Aquarius and Gemini. Welcome to the Capricorn full moon. You'll find the timestamps for your rising sign listed below. Hello Libra rising, welcome to your horoscope for the full moon in Capricorn, happening on the 3rd of July at 9:40 p.m. if you're in the southern hemisphere with me. So, the moon isn't very comfortable in Capricorn. Traditionally, the moon rules Cancer, the sign. And so this is how we sort of develop those connector points with our emotions, with our body, with a sense of being cared for and nurturing, and our caregivers, our parental figures. Sometimes in astrology we can look to the moon and there might be hints as to what our experience was like in our formative years, being raised, being taught about nurturing and care and love and all that kind of thing. So Cancer's opposite Capricorn, and so in that way the moon's a little bit uncomfortable in Capricorn because it's sort of out of its element, out of its depth. And Capricorn, we love him, quite a bit austere, a bit rigid, a bit stubborn and practical to the point of like emotionally remote. Sometimes that can show up in a Capricorn's persona. For you, Libra, Capricorn does rule the 4th house. Because you're all backwards in your chart, the 4th house is our home, root, stability, privacy, security. And so it's kind of like in Cancer season, as we are now, the sun is in Cancer, we're all starting to feel the waves of the rolling tides of our emotions and things about our home and our private life and our ancestry have been brought to the surface or washed up to shore to have a look at. And so in a Libra rising's chart, there is that kind of like, it's almost like looking at the world upside down sometimes, because it's sort of like, oh, but this is where I am Capricorn. This is where I am practical and robust and stubborn. So just have a little sort of ruminate on that for a moment, Libra. I'm going to get you some cards to help us along in this reading. So I got the 7 of Wands, I got the Magician, and I got Strength. So I'm going to hang tight for a minute and just get my bearings as to why this could be. The tarot card for the moon placement right now is at 11 degrees of Capricorn, is the 3 of Pentacles. And this is the card of collaboration. This is the card of recognizing the different strengths in, working together. This scene can't play out without the strength of the model, without the strength of the artist, and without the guiding hand of the lecturer or the teacher. So this is harmonious. It's working diligently, but it's working together. So this moon is highlighting this sense of working together in your home environment, in your, building a sense of privacy, building a sense of security when the weather gets a little bit tough. Now, the intuitive cards that I got are kind of giving me a whole bunch of bullshit kind of Leo strength, which is really nice. There's sort of like, I feel like maybe you've had to be a little bit defensive. You're protecting something, or you're protecting your honor in some way, protecting your ideas. And maybe it's sort of, like you're sort of protecting, there's something about magic here too. The Magician is definitely a little bit more esoteric. Leo does teach us about being proud of ourselves and standing up for what we believe in. So maybe what I'm seeing here, this moon might be bringing up some stuff around your home and around your ideas, around your kind of like philosophies on life, your esoteric leanings, what you sort of think about in terms of, creating magic in your life, creating magic in the home. And that might be a little bit at odds with perhaps some of the other folks that are involved in that collaboration. And I think maybe this message is sort of telling me for you to be a little be like the Strength card, which I did say bolshy, but really when you look at it, the maiden is not using any brute force to tame that lion. They're actually being very kind and gentle and using their energetic emanations to calm the beast. So I wonder if there's sort of maybe the beast could be rising inside of you, and there could be, again, this feeling of like, I've got to get out of here. That can sometimes occur when there's a full moon in the 4th house. If things are going really well, then it's a great night to have, crack open the wine and cook dinner for each other. If things are tense, it's like, right, get me the hell out of here. The message here, though, I think, Libra, is to recognize the beauty in diversity. A happy home environment, a 4th house can work and can really run when there is complementary skills or complementary, when everyone's doing their bit and their bit's different. Everyone's got their own, chores or job or skill set to rely on. Seems to me that yours is kind of like, yours might be a little bit out there. Have you been criticized for what you believe in, Libra? Has there been some maybe crosswords, or maybe you've been focused too much on one train of thought? Or I hope that there's room enough in your home environment for you to enact in the rituals that you need to get through the day, or to get through the week, to get through this period in history. I hope that if there has been a bit of crossed wires or a bit of a need for you to defend yourself and defend your magic — the wands do represent magic in the tarot — then I hope that you can do that and find the place where those higher sort of emotions can settle a little bit. You probably find that healing really happens after a bit of a windmill or a bit of a cyclone. Emotions can have us — sometimes the wrong one comes out, the wrong reaction comes out. The emotion, the feeling is sort of similar. As an example, it's sort of like folks that are really frightened often will lash out in anger first, before you get to the root of the feeling, which is fear. So this is kind of like a spotlight, beautiful lunar spotlight on the operation of your home, how things are working there. Have you been limiting yourself in that space? Is that where this frustration is maybe rising? The emotion of, sometimes, I know in my experience, I can watch it too when I'm going through a bit of an emotional cycle. One of my first inklings of that is I'm really irritated, I'm really irritable, and nothing seems to be working for me, and I can't find pleasure anywhere. And that's when I start to get worried, because I'm sort of like, oh no, here we go again. My irritability is often a signifier that I'm about to, hit some tougher seas, some tougher emotional terrain. Maybe there's some sadness that I sort of suppressed, or maybe there is a bit of fear. I think there's a lot of fear at the moment. It's rough out there, and we are so susceptible to being reminded of that. And there's a consistent reminder if you have any engagement in online stuff. There's always some article to read, and there's some cycle to get sucked into. And that fear, as I said, can sometimes show up as aggression or anger or irritability first. Maybe this lion could be you as well. There could be something that's fighting to be heard, and it's going to take you to be a little bit kinder to yourself in private. The 4th is very private. It's at the bottom of our chart, so it's the most private realm of our life. So maybe at this full moon, it might be nice to sit with yourself and to kind of, if you're sharing a home with somebody else and you know, that would be lovely to welcome them into that kind of sharing circle. Yeah, different trigger responses can have us close up or clam up or reject things because it smells like something before, you know, when I was vulnerable before, or when I opened up to this before, I was taken advantage of, or I was met with that form of aggression. So maybe work through some of that initial response, check the gate, check your safety, and be like a Cancer. You know, the sun's in Cancer shining down on your 4th house. Think about your most public self too. That's quite caring. It's quite overtly nurturing, I would probably say, Libra rising. You've got Cancer in your most public, visible, obvious space. You've got love. You've got a great want and will to take care of things for other folks. Make sure they've got enough, you know, the glass is full. It probably does relate to your work in some way too. The 10th house can speak to our career. So that's the sun shining its light down on the 4th. Where can those collaborations, find a little bit of, how can you don't just want to be publicly known as a caregiver and a warm, loving, nurturing person and then feel kind of isolated at home. That feels a bit backwards to me. I think that we've got to remember that Pluto is back in Capricorn again, so there could, the revolution, the destruction, disintegration of your root structure. There's the glimmer of that again. What did we learn from the turbulence of our 4th house from before, and what's being shown again to remind us that that's not how we are going to set something that's going to stick. So how can we not change our behaviors, but how can we make sure that we're building on this foundation and we're using, our bricks are full of love, our bricks are full of availability. You want to be emotionally available to folks that you share your 4th house with. This is a funny card, the Magician. I like this version of it. I really love this version of the Magician. There is a bit of a illusion about it. Could be criticized as, being make-believe or being a bit of a liar, being full of it. These sorts of reactions to this card can sometimes come up to the possibility of magic itself. But I have an ongoing, evolving definition of magic. If you sort of think about spells and casting spells and making things occur and calling on the elements and, grab your magic wand, doozy up the whipsy. Magic's really simple. Can be. Magic is when you're fraught with tension and anxiety and you call upon yourself to have a conversation. You recognize the version of yourself that's shouting in your ear, and you give yourself time enough to sit with them, hear them out, and resolve it. And the magic is the feeling in the body of tension, anxiety, tightness, to softness again. That's magic. Magic is like a belief in the goodness of the human spirit against all odds. And it's not so much about being a merry sunshine and being, positive and plucky and Don't worry, darling, everything's rosy. Life is not like that. Magic is being able to hold audience with the darkness, to recognize it as part of life, and to keep going anyway. Magic is cooking dinner for someone that you care about, stirring the cauldron, adding the ingredients. Magic is realizing what kind of bizarre future we're living through right now, and all of the incredible technologies that are just part of our day. Think to 10 years ago. Couldn't have guessed it. That's magic too. There's this feeling of like you don't need, follow your own idols, but also keep them honest too. Don't let anyone pull the wool over your eyes or say, I can show you the way, I can provide this salvation. That's guru talk. And that's we're moving away from that as a culture. There ain't no gurus. You can learn from people. You can, someone you respect, you can have them tell you what they know. But no one's going to wave their magic wand and make it all better for you. So, maybe in that way, register that criticism. Not a criticism, it's the truth. No one's going to wave their magic wand and make it all better for you. You can create an environment that you can relax in and feel safe and protected, though. You can create the magic. You don't have to sort of seek it out in somebody else. That's your reading, Libra. It's going to be, full moon, Cancer season. There'll be some tears. There might be some tears. Might be great. I think it's going to be really great tears, though. You should feel safe, and you should feel welcome, and you should feel able to be vulnerable and private in your fourth house. So think about it. Think about how you've been physically reacting to your home environment. And then, if it's no good, we can make plans to work on that and to change it so you are. If you're still here with me, throw me a goat in the comments, won't you? I can read your birth chart or your tarot cards at umaruby.com, and you can throw some tip money in the jar at buymeacoffee.com/umaruby. I'll be with you in 2 weeks again for the new moon in Cancer. So this is where we flip the script and we focus in on your most public self, all of that Cancerian, nurturing, caring vibe about you, Libra, the parts that make you feel kind of, brave to be vulnerable, brave to be understanding and kind. We can work with the new moon and we can create some magic and call in the next chapter. So I'll speak to you then. Much love. Bye. Hello, Aquarius rising. Welcome to your horoscope for the full moon in Capricorn, happening on Monday the 3rd of July at 9:40 p.m. if you're in the Southern Hemisphere with me. So this is going to be a full moon that happens after the weekend on Monday night. So you'll hopefully be in your jammies and you'll be ruminating and remembering what occurred over the weekend, what connections were made, what truths were told, what tears were cried, possibly. It is Cancer season. We do really kind of allow ourselves to be a bit vulnerable. It almost insists that we do so. There's a bravery to Cancer and their ability to go there emotionally and, wanted or unwanted. It just happens that way. That the moon will be full and lighting up your 12th house, Aquarius. Many definitions for the 12th house. There's many different connotations that are attached to that place too. In Hellenistic astrology, it was called the house of bad spirit, which I think is a pretty antiquated term, and I don't suspect that that's something that is anything to be worried about. The 12th house in its history did have a relationship with incarceration too, and with captivity. And sometimes when I think about that, I think about the human species and their relationship with language around mental health, language around neurodiversity, language around different ways of thinking and being. There are a lot of diagnoses from the past that are kind of irrelevant now. Things like feminine hysteria and going to the doctor for that and being prescribed whatever for that sort of thing, or being put away for that kind of emotional response to life is antiquated now. Hopefully, as we move forward, we can provide that level of understanding for other people, and we can open up the hotline, as it were, to have people express how they feel, express what they've been thinking, and not sign on the dotted line and put them away. There's a bit of magic that can be attached to the 12th house too. I wonder if that's the right word, but it's definitely, there's a privacy to it. There's a hidden kind of quality about the 12th. At a full moon there, it might be, it might not, they might not be conversations that are sort of like so inclusive or involved with lots of different people. This is inner work, private work. This is work that you have a relationship with your 12th house from the first to your last day. I think that this moon is sort of highlighting this space. Maybe it might be a really great time for you to kind of reflect on all of the great work that you've been doing in regard to your mental health, in regard to your internal ecosystem, the way that your internal world operates. Perhaps different like opinions that you have held about yourself or about your ability, about your capability in this life. I'm not sure about you, Aquarius, but that's been coming up. This worry about being incapable of having a normal life, a conventional life, just like everyone else. Why am I in deficit? Why am I not able to do what comes second nature to other people? Why am I so inept? These things might start to come up if that's the way that you talk to yourself privately, or have in the past. I mean, that's the great thing about working on it, isn't it? Is that we get to sort of develop these relationships with our internal conversations. Could be a relationship with like ancestral trauma as well, if I could be so bold as to throw that on the table. But some cultures believe that the 12th house can be in relationship to lives past selves. There are other practitioners that do really believe in the presence and prevalence of ancestral trauma, sort of wounding that is attached to bloodlines or attached to history, that it's our opportunity to break those cycles. All of this stuff could be highlighted at this moon, Aquarius. And yeah, I got to say, it doesn't sound like a cakewalk. It doesn't sound like a lot of fun. But I'm a Pisces rising, so I kind of dig the 12th, I've been having some really, really vivid, obvious dreams. And it's been months now. Every time I go to bed, I'm sort of like, oh, okay, there's this chapter. There's one, and I'm catching a train. It's a continual, This is about me. I should be talking about you. I'm catching a train and I'm on my way to somewhere. It's my new town where I live, and I haven't got there yet. The dream is always the journey. It's always getting there. I've made it so far as like stepping off the platform and into the station, but I can't for sure. I don't know where that is. There are people expecting me to, because I'm working on something. I'm sort of moving to this place because I can be useful. And yeah, that's just been really at the forefront of my mind. So maybe, yeah, sorry to make it about me, but have a little think about what recurring themes perhaps have been happening as you've been sleeping, what emotions have been brought up, if you feel them, if you sort of wake up and you're a bit anxious, or you wake up and you're sad, or you wake up and you're a bit sexy, like think about what has been the recurring kind of pattern there. And maybe at this moon there might be a bit of a breakthrough as to why these repetitions were occurring for you, Aquarius. If we look over the way, we look at Cancer, where the sun is, that's your 6th house. So that's kind of very practical, very grounded, very based in reality. Cancer in the 6th house does talk to sort of like almost like care as a vocation kind of thing. If you're sort of like, we can sew in some of the significations of the 6th house to do with the grind, with work, with servitude. To have Cancer there, it's kind of like there's something around like being in the caring industry. And so the sun's there shining a light onto the 12th. So I wonder if maybe even you might be feeling maybe a bit triggered by work at the moment. It might be something in the way that you are, going through your day to day in your work environment that's kind of pulling you back to some of that more hidden stuff. Maybe, yeah, it might be a great moon to just register those trigger responses too. Not to doing this to like hold up, like it's not like that. It's sort of like to name them, be like, oh, okay, well, this is a breakthrough for me. I'm kind of course, this would be all swimming around in my sort of unconscious, because practically in reality, in my day to day, this is going on, and this reminds me of I have a relationship with this. This is maybe a bit stressful, maybe not stressful, but just emotional. The cards that I got are the 7 of Wands, the 2 of Pentacles, and the 10 of Swords. You can see that balancing act, can't you, in the center? Juggling responsibilities, juggling, the list a mile along of things that need to be done, things that need to get done, the different hats that you need to put on, responsibilities that you have. And you can see here this sort of feeling of like defensiveness, having to defend something, having to sort of defend yourself, defend your honor, defend your boundaries. That could be something that's really coming up here. And the 10 of Swords is on the other end of that sort of scale. 10 of Swords is tricky. 10 of Swords is the end of a very difficult mental cycle, a very difficult thought pattern. And that isn't to say that once it's ended, it's over. This is what healing work is. It's a continuum. It never stops. It's actually probably one of the most important, biggest commitments that you'll ever make in your life, is the commitment to this work, to this internal work, particularly when it comes to the swords, when it comes to our mental workings, the way that we think about ourselves, or the way that our past has affected us, or the way that we kind of from the inside out. It's incredibly valuable work. And sometimes there is the impulse to deflect, defend, to push things away. And sometimes that's essential. We do need to defend ourselves. We do need to take care of ourselves, protect what is vulnerable about us. What's vulnerable about you, Aquarius, is your daily rhythm. Your sixth house is filled with the needs and wants and cares of other people and other people's well-being, providing a service, providing space for other folks to do the work. And this is telling me that this moon is going to be really valuable. And because it's Cancer season, hopefully there will be some water that's able to flow, some emotion will be able to move. Because, when water stays still and is contained, it can go stagnant. And that's sort of like an analogy for like emotions going stagnant, emotions going still, like not moving. Water needs to move, to flow, to keep fresh, to keep alive. So if there has been things that have been like sort of racking up in terms of your trigger response basket, this moon might be a really great time to like lighten the load a little bit. 12th house stuff is internal work. It is private, as we were saying before. You don't have to do it. You don't have to do... what am I trying to say? It's nothing to be ashamed of. The internal mechanisms or internal workings of what's going on in your mind. That's the good thing about swords. They're very quick, they're very sharp, they dissipate. Not every thought is the reality. Not every opinion that you have of yourself is the truth. That can move and that can change. But if it's kind of feeling like this, where it's sort of like there's 10 of them, it might be really good to recognize the sun in the background of that card too, that the sun does rise every day. And not to sort of, discount any of this stuff as like, tomorrow's a new day. If you're going through it, Aquarius, if it's, you're in the thick of it right now, it might be great to like take a break. Take a break so you can investigate some of this internal stuff, and you can find avenues that support you in that excavation process. Because while you're busy doing it for other folks and providing a safe space to land for other people in their whatever they're going through emotionally, Cancer's, it's about love too. It's about great feelings. But it's, the caregivers need care as well. And the kind of loneliness sometimes of the 12th house, it can feel really isolating if you can't find the way out of that dream. I think that's, coming back to that dream that I had, that idea of like on the way to be useful, on the way somewhere, on the way to land, and never quite seeing it, and always the train station was empty, so I couldn't even find the exit. That sort of solitude. I like to be alone. I know that it's not good for me to be alone in my thoughts when they're so sharp and aggressive. That's my cue to find the appropriate avenues to get it off my chest, to get it out of my body, to put it on the table. Then it can be sorted through. You'll be doing this forever, Aquarius, as we all are. Nothing gets solved and fixed, and we move on and forget about it. Life rolls around and round and round, and things come up, things reminders come up. The best thing that we can do is provide space for that, as you do for other folks. Also provide it for yourself as well, and be in company, being in the right formation of personalities that do have that space. They're willing to provide that space for you too. Yeah, that's your reading, Aquarius. Much love. 12th house moon in Capricorn too. I'm looking forward to the release. I'm looking forward to the breakthrough. I get sort of tight in my throat sometimes when I'm holding something. My back gets very stiff too. I've got a lot of physical triggers that let me know what's happening in my internal world. That can sometimes be related to the 6th house as well, where Cancer is for you. It can be quite literally the physical vessel, your health, your physical well-being. So, yeah, do a little body scan. Check what's giving you the irrits or what's ailing you. And, focus that kindness and care and love and warmth that you have in abundance for others on yourself too. If you're still here with me, Aquarius, throw me a goat in the comments, please. You can get your birth chart or your tarot read at umaruby.com. You can throw some tip money in the jar at buymeacoffee.com/umaruby. And I'll be right here back on this channel in 2 weeks, and we'll be talking about the new moon in Cancer. So this will be focused back on your workaday rhythm, your routine, your health, this time with a lens of being able to investigate the breakthroughs there. So I'll speak to you then. Bye. Take care of yourself. Hello Gemini rising, welcome to your horoscope for the full moon in Capricorn happening on July the 3rd at 9:40 p.m. if you're in the southern hemisphere with me. So this is a full moon in Capricorn, which might be a little bit emotionally turbulent, but that's good because that's healthy, that's nice for us. Also the moon isn't so comfy in Capricorn. The moon's a bit out of its depth in Capricorn. The moon rules Cancer, the sign of emotional ignition, and the sign that really does care for us and want to nurture us and keep us well fed and listen to us when we're feeling blue. So in opposition to that, in Capricorn, which can be a little bit more austere, a little bit more rigid, the moon can have a bit of a trickier time kind of expressing itself in the way that we would like it to. However, the sun is in Cancer at this full moon. So there's kind of the illumination of the Cancerian principle or idea is being shone over to the sign of Capricorn. So hopefully we'll be able to loosen up a little bit. For you, Capricorn rules the 8th house, which is where we learn to grieve. It's where we come into intense emotional connection with folks, and where we sort of learn to unpick that and to say goodbye as well. It's one of those houses that the definition that I have for it evolves the more that I learn about it and the more that I sort of chart it in my own journey as well. What it means for me, and when it's illuminated by a moon, how that shows up for me and my emotional temperament and what I start to think about and what I start to yearn for. The French call an orgasm the little death. And I like that. I think it's le petit mort. And that, to me, really sums up the one of the colours of the 8th house, because you think about sex and you think about sort of pleasure and ecstasy, and you think about death and the sort of relinquishment of control and the release. and the letting go of something, our life, finite sort of experience. And if the orgasm is sort of somehow related to that feeling, as in like a mini version of that, it's just something I sometimes think about. And I often think about it in the 8th house. So this weekend's going to be, in the lead up to this moon, it's going to be, I said, a bit teary, because there's some great stuff that's happening in Cancer as we move towards this full moon. There's going to be a cazimi with Mercury, which means that Mercury is in exact conjunction with the Sun. So Mercury brings with it information, and the Sun, sets things alight. So it's kind of like there'll be like opportunity to really get to kind of some of the deeper emotions that we've been harboring. If we think to your chart, then Cancer is your 2nd house, which is your value system, what you believe in and how you take care of yourself, how you provide for yourself. It feels like there's kind of like, there's a push and pull between the sort of entanglements or interminglings of other people, how you're committed to them, how your essence is wrapped up in the pacts and contracts that you've signed in this life, and also how you take care of yourself, how you put money in the bank, how you make sure there's food in the fridge, how you're what do you value. You can see where we might start to well up here. I'm going to get some other tarot cards so we can have a deeper chat about it, Gemini. Oh, I got the 9 of Swords in reverse. I got the Star. I know where this is going. And I got the King of Pentacles. Stunning. I feel that you've been racking your brain at the moment, Gemini, about the notion of like what you're worth. I feel that there's been kind of like an anxiousness around that topic, or maybe it's been difficult to sort of generate and get juicy and keep things moving because of that anxiety around sort of like, I'm seeing like, it doesn't have to be monetary, but I'm just thinking about sort of like even energetic stores, energetic resources, just sort of like, okay, I do this amount of work and then do this amount of work and then I do this amount of work. It's like on a bike, with like busted gears, like grinding sort of up a hill is kind of what I'm feeling at the moment. And I can imagine that would be really cause for anxiety. The 9 of Swords is a Gemini card, so this is one of the tarot cards that does speak to the decans of Gemini. What I love about it coming out in reverse is that it does feel kind of like there's a breakthrough on the way. And maybe if we kind of work with the kind of, it doesn't have to be erotic, but there's like, there's an intensity to the 8th house because it does talk about how we grieve. So that's pleasure and pain is the sort of feeling that the 8th house brings up. It's like whatever commitments that you've made in this life to date, I kind of feel like it's like forgive me, Gemini, it's like you're second guessing your worth. We're going to be coming into a clearing about that particular opinion that you have of yourself. Sometimes we don't make commitments in this life. Sometimes we always really pack light and we're really cheap to run and movable because we don't feel that really we're kind of maybe worth investing in, or we're worth going the distance with. Sometimes we're free-spirited and we're, non-committal in this life because we don't trust ourselves. We don't value our ability to resource ourselves. That can be an opinion that really gets in the way of a lot of growth. We want to grow in the second house where Cancer is. Cancer longs for you to grow. Cancer's really proud of you in the second house. There's a great feeling of emotional loving care. That's how you're going to earn probably most of your coin, Gemini, is by being emotionally available and being nurturing and listening to people and kind of helping them through, healing them. There's a great healing sort of salving quality to Cancer, which is wrapped up in how you're going to earn a buck. There's no shame in earning money that way. But if you don't really believe it, if you don't believe that you've got the stuff to do it, or if you did, but it's sort of like lately it's just been like, I'm actually kind of running out of steam, and I don't even know if I find pleasure in it anymore because I can't, because I got limited access to pleasure because I'm grinding all the time. I'm hustling all the time. That could be something that's going on, and this is where this anxiety has kind of banked up. If we could follow Tarot's guidance though, this is coming to a close. There's a reversal here. The next card is the Star. And that is someone who is free and naked and has nothing to hide, who has the resources to move the emotions of life and love for thirsty humanity, who maybe might consider themselves to be a little bit of an extraterrestrial, from some different planet that can kind of look down on humankind and say, oh, you poor babes, this is where we go. I'm being cute about it, but I think that, that's something that is lovely about you, Gemini, that you would be so invested in care, and that's your vocation. You want to make people feel good. You want to make people feel seen and heard and listened to, and salve some of their wounding. This internal struggle with your worth can get in the way of that sometimes. But the funny thing is, Gemini, it's like you're not an extraterrestrial, or maybe you are. I don't know you. I would imagine if you're watching this, you have some sort of human suit, some sort of meat sack suit that does put you on the level with the rest of us, little earthlings. At this time, you can harness that star quality though. You can harness that bravery that the star has. She's got nothing to fear, nothing to hide. Her beautiful body is on display for all to see. This is not to say that you have to, but do you understand that sentiment? Sort of like, I'm free and I'm not hiding behind any mask, and I'm working, toiling beautifully at this water, this Cancer emotional flow. I really believe in the work that I do as being valuable, and not just in finances, but as in worthwhile, that it's helping people, it's bringing them ease and pleasure. And the King of Pentacles is yes, and this is the results. Things are stacking up. My little mountain of gold, or my little country retreat, my veggie garden, whatever the word abundance means to you, Gemini, this is coming through. The king is the king of their castle. They know that all of their hard work was worth it. They're also pretty patient too, which might be another bit of advice or emphasis to have happen at this full moon. And they're kind of able to have it move around as well. There's enough there's a generosity to this sort of persona, and it's not sort of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a patron of the, there's nothing. It's kind of pretty selfless. This kind of energy. They really like to, pay it forward. So, yeah, this moon might be highlighting some of that 8th house stuff, some of that emotional, like grief around the ties that bind or the contracts that bind. I hope that, I don't know quite what to say, but things like mortality might be showing themselves to you too. I had an experience of that very recently. Sort of the first waving of the flag of one generation. And the grief at the relationship that didn't exist, and the guidance that didn't exist. Yeah, the 8th can be a bit messy. But that's kind of part of life too. I don't wish for the voices of any authority figure or the lack of, the disinterest from authority figures. A sort of sense of abandonment can sometimes come up in the 8th house. Because, as much as I've been sort of like huge about it in my language and this idea of like, like the ties that bind and grief and all of that kind of thing, sometimes you can feel pretty abandoned from that ritual as well. You don't know how to operate in that. You can dissociate a little bit from that kind of intensity. But I think that the work that you're doing and committed to in your 2nd house in Cancer, this is where the warmth is coming. Remember, the sun is in Cancer, guiding, lighting up that moon. So whatever we're feeling in the 8th house, we've got some sense of support from Cancer, because Cancer rules the moon. Maybe the spotlight's being turned on stuff that you probably would prefer not to look at, but it's going to help you in the long run to recommit to your practice, to recommit to your star quality. Nothing to hide. And you're telling the truth too. What you're doing is really valuable. And I've got such a shitty relationship with this, it's like such a hippie. I'm sort of like, devil make hair, I don't, but I just, when my coffers are low, I know that I just full 9 of swords, I get really anxious and I get really down on myself and I get really critical too. It's like, you idiot, I can't believe you would spend so much time focused on this thing. It's useless. Why can't you be useful for once instead of being so distracted by friggin' bumblebees and intensely focusing on your interests? That's Capricorn speak, actually, to be honest with you. That's a bit shadow Capricorn, but it happens to me sometimes. And when the star comes out, that's when I'm reminded, actually, I've got nothing to hide. And I'm doing my best to be helpful and to be useful. There's so many of us standing on this planet right now, more than there's ever been. We can't all be the same. We can't all follow the same path. You've been brave enough to follow a path that's pretty untrodden or less trodden than most, Gemini. And so sometimes in there, it might feel a bit lonely, and that critical voice might start to rear up, but you're on the way to something really golden. Look at all the yellow in that King of Pentacles. Self-made. Like, power to you, babe. Power to you. That's your reading for this one, Gemini, if you're still here with me, throw me a goat in the comments. I'd really appreciate it, in honor of Capricorn and all of the stubborn rigidity that we're sort of feeling right now. I can read your birth chart or your tarot cards at umaruby.com. You can send me some tip money at buymeacoffee.com/umaruby, and I'll be with you in 2 weeks, and we'll get to really focus in on your second house, which is what I was just giving you a pep talk about right now. But we'll get to lock into Cancer. We'll get to lock in with the darkness of the new moon, and we'll get to use our magical tools and create space for what we want to welcome in regard to our sense of self-worth. So much love to you. I look forward to that one. Go gently with this Capricorn full moon, but also burst into tears if you need to. You're allowed to. Feels great, actually. Actually feels really great. So treat yourself. Bye.